So apparently Bitcoin is on track to hit $1 million in the next 2 years, maybe worst case by 2030. And today I'm going to share with you the insights and predictions made by some very big people in the cryptocurrency space, as well as ETF issuers who are weighing in on this bullish Bitcoin hyperization, I guess you can call it, narrative that is now pushing into the masses. It's some big stuff, but in today's video, we're also covering some really bullish HBAR news, as well as Chainlink stuff, and of course, a few more. So with that all being said, welcome back to a brand new No BS crypto news video, where I bring you crypto news every single day in the most no BS kind of way. Let's kick things off, of course, by having a very brief and general look at the market. Bitcoin right now just beneath 43,000. The market's a nice sort of even sea of green and red, but for the most part, if you zoom in closer, we're like fractions above and below equilibrium, so there's nothing to really complain or write home about. It's basically a very neutral day in crypto. Now, yesterday was different though. Yesterday we saw Bitcoin fall well below $42,000 thanks to a whole bunch of long liquidations totaling about $17.5 million. So that, of course, helped bring the price down a little bit there. And also we did have the big guys. If you didn't buy the dip, well, they definitely did, right? We had BlackRock buying 11,500 Bitcoins, and overall all the ETF issuers accumulating 23,000 Bitcoin, which actually meant that yesterday was a day in which they bought more Bitcoins than there was emitted, or at least entered into circulation, due to, of course, those typical emissions. Now, with that being said, this has led a lot of people to believe, hey, well, it's a supply crunch, right? Basically meaning that we are sucking up or absorbing more of the supply than what's being entered into circulation, which over time does cause a supply shock, right? It means the price will go up dramatically. There's more demand, less supply. Basic economics 101. However, this doesn't typically happen from one single day. This takes a little bit of a while to actually begin to create a supply crunch or a supply shock. So, of course, it is a step in the right direction. We'll see how this progresses. I just don't think every single day there's going to be 23,000 Bitcoin purchased. So before we get into today's news, let's have a look at the top gainers and losers. Flare, Blur, Psy, and Mina all up around 10% to 35%. These are the biggest gainers for the day. Nothing else is really worthwhile mentioning. Again, a very neutral day to say the least. Same thing with the top losers: Ethereum name service, Aptos, Bonk, and DYDX. Again, not even worth really mentioning. So let's forget about that and let's get straight into the topics today. First of all, I want to point out, well, guys, the halving's about 3 months away. 95 days is the coin market cap Bitcoin halving clock. This is some good stuff, but I want to point out, you might check back in a week from today's video and it still might be up 95 days. Maybe it might even go up to 100 days, because this isn't really something we can accurately predict. There are so many variables at play when it comes to knowing when the next halving is going to happen, basically because blocks happen on a set time. It's supposed to be 10 minutes. Unfortunately, it can go above and below 10 minutes, so there's no exact time frame on when the halving occurs. This is all thanks to the fact that the network must adjust the difficulty for miners to find a certain number called the nonce. It's just a random number, right? But there's mathematical equations they have to go through to find that number in order to mine the block, which is designed to be, give or take, around 10 minutes. So given the fact that one block might be 11 minutes, one might be 9 minutes, it's all like worked out on average. So this is coming up very soon, though. Keep your eyes on it. Now, traditionally, with the Bitcoin halvings, we do see almost a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event happen, or more or less we do have a point in time in which the initial news of the halving does dump the market, okay? We can see here with Bitcoin way back in 2016, we did fall right before the halving, about 28 or 30%, and then just after the halving, another 30% as well, before we kind of consolidated around a 10% drop before the actual commencement of the bull run. Same thing for the most recent halving as well. We did have COVID, I guess, skewing the data in this case. Not as accurate because, hey, what's to say that this correction over here was by the rumor, or whether this was actually from, the COVID correction. So either way, we did fall a couple days before the halving, about 20%. Again, similar to what it was the cycle before 2021, we did correct around about 9 to 10%. So I see us doing a very similar pattern as well. If we even go back to 2013 cycle, in the blue line over here after the halving, we did have a correction. So a lot of people are speculating, at least a lot of these experts, that it won't be as significant of a drop before or after the date of the halving, because a lot of these miners' balance sheets are up significantly from what they were in the past. Now, the reason typically we have a crash when the halving occurs is because the smaller miners aren't profitable anymore. The sort of the work, the energy, and all that computational power required to mine a block and all that power, right, electricity, is still required. However, the reward is literally halved. And of course, the price isn't instantly doubled to make that worth it. So they kind of have to shut up shop, maybe even sometimes sell their Bitcoin, which reduces the price even more, then making it for the big miners less profitable for those guys. They have to do a similar thing, sell some Bitcoin, and we typically have what's called miner capitulation, where that's what really brings the price down. But, given the fact that possible miner balance sheets are really in the black this time, they can probably weather that storm quite well. So we'll see what happens, but just keep your eye out. Let's get into the first topic today, which is the fact that Bitcoin is going to be $1 million or around about by 2025. Big, bold predictions coming in here, and I think it's quite interesting. A lot of these really massive players from traditional finance are coming over now. They have these ETFs approved, and they're kind of throwing these big things around, and it's kind of flagging a warning sign in my mind, okay? But you don't want to read article titles or YouTube titles and not watch the video or not read the article, right? You don't want to summarize something that's, you try to create your own little narrative. Read it, because this article from Forbes, right? This is just the beginning, says BlackRock CEO Larry Fink. He reveals massive crypto plan after ETF sparks wild Bitcoin and ETH price swings. That's a massively bullish title, and you might read that and think, oh my God, yes, I'm going to go make a drastic change in my portfolio or position in the market because of this. You might read a couple other titles and articles, like I'll show you in a second here, and then go and even make a more drastic decision. But read the articles, because in this case, and this is why I want to show you this first, is that basically all this article says is that Larry Fink is saying, hey, the first step in adoption for Bitcoin and crypto, or as he says here, the technological revolution, is the inclusion in traditional finance markets, and step 2 is the tokenization of financial assets. So basically, this whole thing can be summarized by just simply Larry Fink wants everything tokenized, and he's been pushing this narrative for the last 4 months. So a big warning sign there. You have Morgan Stanley now also getting their greasy fingers in the pot as well. We have one of these analysts from Morgan Stanley saying, hey, de-dollarization's happening. You can forget China. You can forget Russia. You can forget BRICS. Bitcoin might be the standard unit of currency around the world. Bitcoin might provide economic support for the whole world, okay? And so this is good. Don't get me wrong. I see all the time in the comments, Kyron, stop spreading FUD. I hate that word, FUD. Stop spreading FUD, or stop, trying to make people pump your bags. Like, stop telling people your opinion. And again, my opinion should basically be devil's advocate here, right? I'm just trying to give you guys every side of the story that you might not be thinking of. And in this case, it's like, there's obviously a very obvious picture and narrative they're trying to paint here. And I always think to myself, what's bubbling under the surface, okay? What is coming up in the very short term that might not be obvious because they're painting a longer term, very bullish, FOMO feeling vision. So again, I would argue and kind of stress to you all to read these and just think to yourself, okay, well, there's a massive hype now coming into crypto. So I think long-term, very bullish, but just imagine that maybe they're simply trying to get you to feel FOMO, buy Bitcoin, and then they'll dump on you, and then you'll capitulate, and then they can buy even cheaper. Just think about this sort of stuff. So let's get to this prediction, okay? We've waited long enough. Samson Mow, which is a Web3 crypto project founder, believes Bitcoin will surge to $1 million. Get this, within days or weeks once supply crunch hits. Now, I don't even know how to really begin and how to articulate how absurd, stupid, ridiculous that really is, okay? This is like Balaji, when Balaji said, 6 or 7 months ago now that Bitcoin was going to hit $1 million in a few months. This has obviously taken it to a whole new dimension. I don't obviously believe he's correct. I think, look, if we have a continuation of these ETF issuers in the overall market buying more Bitcoin every day than what's being emitted, yes, we're going to have a supply crunch or a supply shock. Price is going to go absolutely nuts. But that has to be sustained, which of course isn't going to be something that's going to likely happen this soon. It'll happen in the future. And again, just keep this in mind, okay? So I'm shocked because this just never ceases to surprise me. All these bullish narratives are coming out now. You've got to wonder why. Cathie Wood, another situation over here. She came out and said she could see Bitcoin's price reaching 1.5 million by 2030. It was a 50% increase from her previous prediction of $1 million. She's getting more and more bullish the more, ETF issuers are coming on the block, which is fair enough. It makes total sense, right? More demand, simply, again, basic supply and demand, economics 101. But again, think about it. long term. I think they're right, but in the next, 12 to 24 months, do you really see Bitcoin, as we'll see in a second here, increasing to above gold's market cap? Just hold on for a sec, right? So she says her bear case would be 258K, base case 682K, and as I said before, bullish case 1.5 million. This is at least for 2030, so you can call that crazy, but it's a little bit more realistic than old mate Samson over here. But because they're throwing numbers around, you see them all the time comparing this to like the gold ETFs back in the early 2000s and comparing it to all the current metrics and data that's being presented to ourselves. Well, why don't we throw some numbers back at them? And I want to show you guys how crazy this sounds. At the current supply, and keep in mind, there's give or take about whatever it might be, there's definitely a few thousand Bitcoin that's being entered into circulation every day. We, of course, have at the current supply, 19.5 million Bitcoins out there. And if we just work out what the market cap would be at a $1 million price, again, if it were to go to this today, it'll be worse in the future. It's $20 trillion market cap. 20T, not BT, okay? Which is 7 trillion more than gold's current market cap, which is 2 and a bit X more gap difference than our market cap globally in the last cycle. So we are talking about a seismic change in growth here, and that would have to require, I guess, globally people to come in and buy Bitcoin on a mass scale. And I don't think ETFs in just the US, and even if Hong Kong and a few other countries come into the mix, would quite do that in the next 2 years. So please, the whole sort of premise of this, you can spin it any way which you want. Yes, I'm definitely bullish on Bitcoin, bullish on crypto, but just please pull yourself into gear. Don't get FOMO when you're seeing this. I've been in crypto long enough now to know typically when we have these massively bullish articles, something might be brewing. And even if it's not, hey, even if I give it the best picture and just say maybe it's just a very bullish time in general, then yeah, but again, you don't want to kind of be FOMOing in based on all these crazy predictions. Let's talk Hedera. Now, I've touched on this in a video I posted a few hours ago, but I want to touch on it more now, okay? So Hedera recently, at least a few days ago, put out this post saying that the Hedera Council announced that they voted to give the board approval to allocate 4.86 billion HBARs, or roughly about 11% of their current supply, toward further development of the Hedera network, enabling its decentralized governance. So they have a governing council of about 30 members right now. They voted to allocate some of their own uncirculating supply right now into circulation to further develop HBAR, okay? And they gave those tokens to the sort of next evolution, or at least the board of directors, right? So it goes governing council of 30 big members down to the board of directors of about 8 people, okay? They kind of, again, help dictate the direction of the Hedera project itself. And they sent these majority, at least lion's share, right, 4.28, or roughly speaking about 90% or so, towards ecosystem development, right? So to the HBAR Foundation, the Hashgraph Association, and DLT Science. Now, people are getting this very wrong. People think, oh, all these tokens are coming out, right? So basically they went from this is their distribution, unallocated supply being 31%. Their unallocated supply is now 14%. But you can see the increase over here, mainly in the ecosystem and open source development section. So this was funds that I had on the side, again, unreleased, and they gave it towards the net positive growth of Hedera, which, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. If you think that's bearish, then you've got literally things 360 back or 180 back to front. That is one of the best things they can do, is as a scaling and a fast scaling project, is to dedicate some tokens towards incentivizing people to either build on their network or form new relationships and OTC, over-the-counter trade, those HBAR tokens to bring them in. Every network basically under the sun has done this, bar a few, okay, apart from like Ethereum and a few of these, I guess, early, first movers. So as I mentioned in the video I posted a few hours ago on HBAR, it's important that we focus on the growth of HBAR into Web3. And the way you do this is having a sort of carrot on the end of a stick for developers saying, hey, come work with us, we'll give you this little carrot over here. And that's what brings them in. So there's some more things as well that can go into relating to this. One of those such things is they're dedicating about 10% or so to the council's operational costs. So those 30 governing council members, basically paying them for things like the venue, basically paying them to keep doing what they're doing. Like, I don't know what the big deal here is, guys. Like, even if they decide to dump their tokens, you might be looking at around 5% max of all the tokens given to, this particular unlock right now, which again is 11% of the current supply. So work that out, it's not that much money at all. But that's if they were to all dump their tokens at once, which I highly doubt. The other allocation of this 614 million HBAR is going to be going to the SAFT or ICO round investors, which is strictly friends, family, and also accredited investors. And they're not dumb. They're not going to be dumping their tokens now when HBAR's at 8 cents. They're going to be waiting because they know at the precipice of a bull run for the bull run. Like, I don't know what people say. I've seen the argument time and time again of, hey, what if they all dumped? That's going to dump HBAR's price. Like, no. There is never going to be this, hey, everyone, let's call up all the SAFT investors and all the people associated with these early round buys and let's get everyone to dump at the same time. There is never that sort of event that happens at any project for that matter. It's a very, very big market manipulation thing, by the way. And if we find the price fall in HBAR any further than what it is right now, it's going to be because of degens like you and I selling in anticipation for a possible sell-off, which is what happens 95% of the time in crypto. For the price to actually fall from any unlock in crypto, you have to have people selling on exchanges. That's the only way we see the price fall. If they just get distributed the tokens, they're still technically, until they're sold on the open market, like technically locked. Okay, no one's actually selling them. So keep this in mind. I've seen FUD people talk about this in the bad sense. It's good. It's good. And if you are still worried about this, then you're in the wrong project. If you want a decentralized project and governance structure, go buy Casper. Now, Chainlink also had some pretty interesting news. We have DLT Pay, which is a project, a small project, mind you, developing on CCIP, which is important because these guys are doing something I haven't really heard of before, which is basically providing small to medium businesses the opportunity to leverage DeFi, I guess you can say, and crypto to do things like cross-border payments and, any sort of financial matter, basically, which is good because that's what DeFi is used for. And I haven't really seen this use case yet. Yes, we all use it, retail customers, but to have something dedicated towards like actual businesses that might not have the same sort of level of inclusion as you can find with larger businesses in like the Forex markets or the, cross-border traditional finance markets, speaking from experience being in a bank, there is some things afforded to larger businesses that isn't for smaller businesses. This is great. It opens up the borders. It opens up true borderless economy, basically. So yeah, they're working with Chainlink here. Again, a small project, but we'll see how this kind of grows. Again, everything starts small. You just have to germinate it. So yeah, bullish stuff overall, I think, for Chainlink and also for DLT Pay. And lastly, Binance research analysts have outlined 8 areas they anticipate to have significant progress throughout this year. Some of those include Bitcoin narratives, specifically ordinal NFTs and also BRC20 tokens, AI, real-world asset tokenization, decentralized identity or DIDs, oracles, interoperability, and also DePIN or decentralized physical network projects, which AI and DePIN, I believe, will pretty well be one of the largest narratives we find. And I did cover 5 projects in this video I posted last night that you do want to watch. I break down a lot of analytics relating to why they will be very, very prosperous narratives into the next year or two. And I'll give you 5, of course, projects in that list as well. So I also do agree oracles, interoperability, real-world asset tokenization. We touched on Larry Fink over here, speaking about how it's very important. So this is all happening. And of course, as someone who is an investor in crypto, like you and I, we have to look what is going to be the big narratives, not in the next 10, 20 years, what's going to be big and drive adoption in the next 12 to 24 months. And those are, of course, some of the narratives I do agree with as well. So with that being said, everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you made it this far, drop a like on the video. It helps me out quite a lot. And I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Take care.